When my daughter-in-law called my retirement account family money, I didn't argue. I just looked at the statement with my name on it and realized they had made plans for a life I was still living. Just leave the bank folder on the table. Clara, that's family money from here on out. My daughter-in-law, Brooke said with total casualness as she helped herself to another slice of my homemade peach cobbler. My son Julian immediately buried his face in the work spreadsheets on his laptop and stayed silent. In that exact moment, I realized that my retirement savings, the money I had spent 40 years earning through grueling night shifts as a registered nurse, had already been mentally spent by them. Brooke spoke so calmly, as if the account with my name on it had already been thoroughly discussed by everyone except the woman who actually earned it. They were sitting in my kitchen, drinking my coffee and dividing up my life. Brooke went on to explain that she and Julian needed a larger SUV because their old sedan wouldn't pass the state inspection. Plus, Owen's daycare tuition was going up in the fall. She had it all mapped out. My monthly pension and my savings account were supposed to bridge their financial gap. Julian just cleared his throat and said, "Mom, don't make this so complicated. You live out here in the suburbs anyway. It's not like you need all of it." I felt a cold wave of clarity wash over me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply picked up the blue folder from the kitchen table, put it back in the hutch drawer, and locked it. I slipped the key into my cardigan pocket. Brooke's face didn't change. She just kept tapping away on her smartphone, as if my reaction didn't matter at all. When they left that evening, Brooke left her spare house key on the entryway console, as if by accident. It was a silent order for me to be ready at 7 sharp tomorrow morning to take Owen to daycare. I looked at that key ring and knew the days of silent favors were officially over. The next morning, I didn't get up at 6 to warm up breakfast for Owen. Instead, I sat at the dining table with a mug of black tea and went through my bank statements. When you look closely, numbers tell a story all their own. Over the last 2 years, I had quietly slipped into the role of a free, full-time service provider. There was $50 here for their grocery run at Kroger. There was paying the insurance bill for Julian's old car because it was still under my policy. The receipts piled up on the table. Every single month, a significant chunk of my pension was funding my son and his wife's comfort. Brooke had even put her monthly streaming subscriptions on my credit card, just temporarily, she had claimed at the time. That was 14 months ago. I pulled my old calculator out of the drawer. The final number that flashed on the screen stung. It wasn't just the amount of money. It was the realization that my generosity had been logged as a given. While I was sorting through the papers, the mail slot in the front door rattled. The mailman had dropped off the new electric bill, another rate hike. I looked at the daycare calendar Brooke had stuck to my refrigerator with magnets. Every other afternoon was blocked out for me so they could work uninterrupted or go to yoga. Flexibility was only expected from my end. Julian called just after 8. His voice sounded rushed. "Mom, where are you? Brooke needs to head out and Owen is waiting." He didn't ask how I was doing. He only asked for my services. "I'm not coming today," I said calmly. On the other end of the line, there was dead silence for a few seconds before Julian took a deep breath. "What do you mean you're not coming?" Julian finally asked, and I could hear the clinking of coffee mugs in the background. "I have my own plans today, Julian. You'll have to take Owen to daycare yourselves," I answered in the exact same matter-of-fact tone. I didn't wait for his reply. I just hung up. It was my first real step. Later that morning, I put on my coat and walked down to the local bank branch on the square. The manager there had known me for years. I sat in his office for half an hour. By the time I walked out, online banking access for my main savings had been frozen. From now on, any transaction required my physical signature on paper. I also canceled the recurring charge for Brooke's streaming service. On the way back, I stopped by the grocery store, buying only what I needed for myself: a small loaf of bread, some cheese, and a piece of fish. No more family-sized bulk packs. No more expensive organic juices that Julian loved to drink when they visited. When I got back to my house, a yellow sticky note was pasted to my door. Brooke had left it. "We had to drop Owen off late because of you. Brooke missed a major meeting. We need to talk badly." I peeled the note off, crumpled it up, and tossed it into the trash bin by the driveway. A moment later, my phone buzzed. A text from Brooke in our family group chat read, "We're coming over for dinner tonight. Please bring the spare key I left yesterday." They weren't asking to meet. They were announcing it. They still believed a little guilt tripping would be enough to make me fall back into line. But they underestimated the peace I had found over the last few hours. I went into the hallway and took a very long look at the deadbolt on my front door. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. When I opened the door, Brooke pushed right past me into the hallway, followed by Julian, who kept his eyes fixed on the floor. "It doesn't even smell like food in here," Brooke remarked, sharply glancing into the dark kitchen. "I already ate at 5, I said, closing the door behind them. We sat down in the living room. Brooke crossed her arms. "Mom, what was that this morning?" Julian started. "You know how stressful things are for us right now. Can't you just react like a normal person for once?" I looked at my son. He looked exhausted, but it was the exhaustion of a man who had learned to always take the path of least resistance. "I did react normally," I said, quietly. "I organized my life, just like you organize yours." Brooke took over. "We got a notification from our streaming service. The payment was declined. And what about the money for the SUV? The dealership is only holding it for us until Friday. We thought you'd be happy to feel needed and help out your own family." There it was again, the word family, used as a crowbar to pry open my savings account. "Brooke," I said, looking her dead in the eye, "my savings account is my retirement security. It is not a joint checking account." Brooke let out a short, disbelief-filled laugh. "Come on, Clara, you don't count every little penny when it comes to family. What are you even going to do with all that money anyway? You just sit at home all day." Julian looked out the window, completely uncomfortable, but he didn't say a single word to contradict his wife. I stood up, walked to the entryway console, and grabbed the key ring Brooke had left the day before. I set it down on the coffee table in front of her. "Your key. And starting next week, I won't be doing the morning daycare runs on Tuesdays and Thursdays anymore. If you simply enjoy spending time with quiet revenge, that's already a gift to us. Watching, listening, and sharing your thoughts in the comments are wonderful ways to support this community. If you would like to do a little more, you can also help by contributing the price of a small cup of coffee. We use AI tools to assist with some parts of creating our videos, but every story is carefully chosen, edited, reviewed, and produced by our team with sincerity and care. If you choose to support us, you can do so here. Patreon, https://www.patreon.com/Quiet Revenge Family, Ko-fi. https://co-fi.com/thestoryfamily PayPal https://www.paypal.com/paypalme/kanhuangmin. Whether you choose to give or simply continue watching, thank you for being part of Quiet Revenge. We truly appreciate you. Brooke's face flushed bright red. She snatched up the key ring as if it were a weapon. "If that's how it's going to be," she said, her voice shaking, "then you might want to think about how often you plan on seeing your grandson in the future. We can't keep adjusting our schedules around your moods." It was the textbook emotional blackmail I had anticipated. They were using the child as currency. A few years ago, a threat like that would have broken me. I would have surrendered just to keep the peace. But today, I only felt a profound disappointment in my son's weakness. Julian just sat there completely mute. "Julian, do you have anything to say about this?" I asked him directly. He shifted uncomfortably on the couch. "Mom, don't make this so complicated. Brooke is right. We're all in this together. If our car falls apart, we won't even be able to come out and visit you as much." I recognized the pattern. They weren't asking for help. They were demanding a toll. "I'm not debating you, Julian. I'm informing you," I said, delivering the exact lines I had practiced. "Owen is my grandson, and I love him, but I will not be blackmailed." Brooke stood up abruptly. "Come on, Julian. There's no point in talking to her. Your mother only cares about herself. Let's see how lonely she gets when the winter heating bills hit and there's no one around to help her out." They stormed out of the house, slamming the front door so hard the glassware in the china cabinet rattled. As the silence settled back into the rooms, I let out a long breath. The first major storm was over, and I was still standing. I walked to the window and watched their car pull out of the driveway. They thought they had the last word, but they had no idea I had already set my next plan in motion. The following Wednesday morning, I put my plan into action. I called Jim, a local locksmith whose family I had known for decades. 2 hours later, the deadbolt on my front door was completely replaced. The old set of keys Julian and Brooke kept for emergencies was now entirely useless. I handed the new spare key to Mrs. Gable, my neighbor from across the street. We drank a cup of coffee together in my kitchen afterward. "You have to draw the line somewhere, Clara," she said, nodding in total approval as I laid out the situation. "If you let people treat you like a doormat, they'll wipe their boots on you." Mrs. Gable then told me about a senior travel club that organized weekly day trips by coach bus and regional transit. I jotted down the first trip date in my calendar immediately. It felt liberating to make my own plans again. Plans that had absolutely nothing got to do with pickup times or running errands for anyone else. That afternoon, I took the bus downtown to the station and purchased a senior transit pass. I wanted to travel, visit old friends out of state, and spend the money I had spent a lifetime earning. On my way back, I happened to spot Julian's car parked outside the local auto repair shop. It seemed the sedan was still running just fine after all. When I got home, I found an official letter from my car insurance provider in the mailbox. The process of removing Julian's vehicle from my policy was complete. I had revoked the automatic payment authorization. Starting next month, he would have to cover his own fixed expenses. As I cleaned up the kitchen, my phone no longer buzzed every few minutes. The quiet was strange at first, but with every passing hour, it felt more and more like freedom. Nadine and Julian remained silent. They were likely waiting for me to break. They were going to be waiting a very long time. The mistake Brooke made happened the following Saturday. It was my usual day for yard work, and I was out sweeping the front porch when a car pulled up hard into the driveway. Brooke marched up the walkway holding Owen by the hand. Julian followed a few paces behind, carrying a heavy plastic basket. "Good you're home, Clara," Brooke said loudly, her voice carrying across the yard. Mrs. Gable opened her front door across the street, watching curiously. Brooke completely ignored my neighbor and walked straight to my front door. She reached into her purse, pulled out her old key, and shoved it into the lock. She twisted it, but the mechanism didn't budge an inch. Her face froze for a second, then she whipped around to glare at me. "What is this? Why isn't the key working?" she demanded, completely disregarding little Owen, who was tugging at her jacket confused. "I had the locks changed," I said evenly, setting my broom against the railing. "This is my house." Brooke took a step closer. "We were bringing Owen over for the weekend. We have an event downtown. And Julian needs your signature for the credit union. The dealership is demanding a down payment on the SUV today. You can't just lock us out on the porch." She was trying to publicly shame me in front of my neighbors, to force my hand. Julian set the basket, which was overflowing with their dirty laundry, straight down on the top step. "Mom, don't be like this. We're your family," he said weakly. Looking at that laundry basket, it hit me just how incredibly disrespectful they were. They didn't see a mother or a grandmother. They saw an institution to be exploited whenever necessary. The game was officially over. I looked down at the laundry basket and then back at my son. "Take that basket back to your car, Julian," I said softly but firmly. "I am done doing your laundry, and there will be no signature for the bank." Brooke let out a bitter laugh. "You really think you hold all the power just because you're sitting on that cash? We're going to the bank together on Monday. Julian has a right to his share of his inheritance." That was the exact moment I had prepared for. I didn't reach for the blue folder, and I didn't launch into a massive speech. I simply pulled an official letter from the bank out of my cardigan pocket, a document I had received the day before. I held it up so Julian could clearly read the header. "There is no such thing as an inheritance while I am at Brooke," I said calmly. "And that savings account doesn't exist in that form anymore. Yesterday, I moved the entire balance into a 5-year high-yield certificate of deposit. It is locked away securely to fund my long-term care needs down the road. Nobody can touch it. Not even me, unless I want to pay massive early withdrawal penalties." The color drained from Julian's face entirely. He stared at the paper. He understood instantly what it meant. Their dream of a brand new SUV funded by his mother was dead. The financial well they had casually labeled family money had gone completely dry. Brooke snatched the letter out of Julian's hand and scanned the lines, her lips tightening into a razor-thin line. "You didn't," she whispered, completely stunned. "You lied to us." "No," I replied. "I secured my property. You planned your life, and now I am planning mine." Owen started to whine and reached for my hand, but Brooke yanked him back. The absolute fury in her eyes was unmistakable, but she had 0 cards left to play. "You're ruining us," Brooke practically screamed, completely forgetting that Mrs. Gable was still standing on her porch, watching the entire thing. "We were counting on you. How are we supposed to cover our expenses now? Julian's salary doesn't stretch that far." Julian looked at me with wide, helpless eyes. "Mom, please. You know how stressful things are for us. Can't you at least keep paying the car insurance?" They sent me a cancellation notice today. It was genuinely pathetic to watch a grown man in his 30s completely incapable of handling his own bills because he had spent years leaning on his mother's finances. "No, Julian," I said, holding his gaze. "You are an adult. It's time you start handling things like one. You have a job. You have an income. If the money is tight, you need to cut back on your lifestyle. You don't cut into my retirement." Brooke grabbed Julian tightly by the arm. "Come on, let's go. This woman doesn't have a heart. She's abandoning her own family." She spun on her heel and stormed down the walkway, practically dragging Owen behind her. Julian stayed behind for a second. He looked down at the laundry basket, then up at me. He was still holding out hope for a miracle, waiting for the passive, compliant mother he used to know to reappear. "I'm not debating you, Julian. I've informed you," I repeated. He swallowed hard, picked up the heavy basket, and followed his wife down the path without another syllable. A moment later, their car doors slammed shut. It was a different sound than before. It was the sound of a hard, permanent boundary. I took a deep breath of the fresh afternoon air, stepped inside, and closed my new door. The deadbolt clicked into place with a solid, satisfying snap. 3 months have passed since that Saturday afternoon. My house has become very quiet, but it isn't a lonely silence, it's a deeply peaceful one. Every single Thursday, I'm out on day trips with the Senior Travel Club. We've gone to the coast, toured historic towns, and visited museums. I'm meeting new people, laughing a lot, and enjoying my coffee in local diners without ever having to look at my watch. My money belongs entirely to me, and every dollar I spend is an investment in my own freedom and happiness. Julian called me about 2 weeks ago on a Sunday. His voice sounded entirely different, softer, much less demanding. He told me they had gone ahead and repaired their old sedan instead of buying the SUV. Brooke started working a few extra hours a week, and Owen is now enrolled in the extended day program at his preschool. They are managing completely on their own. It's funny how people figure things out when they don't have a choice. He asked very politely if I wanted to have Owen over for a few hours this coming weekend. I agreed, but strictly on my terms. He drops Owen off at my place and picks him up when the time is up. No overnight stays and absolutely no spontaneous emergency drop-offs. If they want to visit me, they are always welcome, but they come as guests, not as managers of my life. Brooke was remarkably polite during the last drop-off. She didn't mention my savings account, and she certainly didn't call it family money. She finally understands that respect is the only currency that matters to me now. I often sit on my porch in the evenings looking out at the yard with a glass of wine. I didn't lose my family. I just finally taught them who I really am, an independent woman who owns her life completely and entirely, and that feels incredibly good. If you simply enjoy spending time with quiet revenge, that's already a gift to us. Watching, listening, and sharing your thoughts in the comments are wonderful ways to support this community. If you would like to do a little more, you can also help by contributing the price of a small cup of coffee. We use AI tools to assist with some parts of creating our videos, but every story is carefully chosen, edited, reviewed, and produced by our team with sincerity and care. If you choose to support us, you can do so here. Patreon, https://www.patreon.com/Quiet Revenge Family. Ko-fi, https://ko-fi.com/The Story Family. PayPal, https:// www.paypal.com/paypalme/Kanhuangmin. Whether you choose to give or simply continue watching, thank you for being part of Quiet Revenge. We truly appreciate you.